in Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
I am Sayesha Parab from Sharada High Secondary, Ozarim, Pernem, Goa. So today I will be discussing the lesson that is era of one-party dominance. So before going to this lesson, we will just go back to the challenges of nation building. What you all have studied, we will just revise it. So first of all, you all had studied what were the three major challenges that were there. The first and foremost challenge was to shape the nation that was united. The second challenge was to establish democracy, and the third challenge was to ensure the welfare and the development of the society. So these were all the three challenges which you all had seen in this chapter. Also you all had seen the process of partition, then you all had seen the consequences of partition. What were the consequences of partition? Wherein there were atrocities, lot of killings, women were abducted and so on. And then later you all had seen the integration of princely state, wherein there was the accession of Manipur within the Union of India, as well as the accession of Hyderabad within the Union of India. And later at last you all had seen the reorganization of states, wherein the State Reorganization Act was passed. Move to the lesson, today's lesson, that is era of one-party dominance. In this lesson, we are going to see how after independence the elections were conducted and how there was a dominance of one party. So first of all, you all should know the meaning of one-party dominance. Here, the one-party dominance means it is a system of majority rule wherein one political party wins with a very large majority, and therefore it becomes a dominant ruling party. In other words, we can say as the domination of one particular political party into the entire political system is called as one-party dominance. There may be some other political parties as well, but in that context as well, the one political party dominates the entire political system. I can give you all the example from this chapter only. How the Congress party dominated from the first general election of 1952 to the second general election of 1957 to the third general election of 1962. So the continuous rule of the Congress party has been called as the one party dominance. I hope the meaning is clear to you all. Now, as India had got its independence in the year 1947, our great leaders took the initiative of introducing democracy in our country. But the countries which had got its freedom from colonialism, they decided not to introduce democracy because they thought that this democracy would lead to conflicts and differences, and they believed in giving importance to the national unity, and they continued with the non-democratic rule in their countries. But in the case of India, it was not like that. Our great leaders moved ahead in introducing democracy in our country. But there was a question on the minds of every citizen: can India establish democracy, or whether India will be able to establish democracy or not? Because it had been seen that democracy had existed only in North America and Europe, as they were very much developed, as well as they most of the people were literate. But in India, it was not the case. India has exactly opposite situation. There was lot of illiteracy in our country. Economic background was not that good. Our people were not aware of their rights and so on. And it was thought that India won't be able to establish its democracy. When a constitution was drafted in the year 1949 and when it was signed in the year when it was drafted and signed in the year 1949, and it came into effect in the year on 26 January 1950, but till then there was an interim government, meaning there was a provisional government and that government was not formally elected. And so it was decided to hold the free and fair election, and to hold the election we cannot just hold elections, everything needs to be planned up properly, right from deciding the date of the election till declaring the result of the election. So election commission was set up in the year 1950, and the first chief election commissioner was Sukumar Sen, and to hold the free and fair election, the election commission had to face certain challenges. Now we will see what were the challenges that India had to face to hold the free and fair election in our independent India. First of all, it had to draw the boundaries of the constituencies. Then secondly, preparing the electoral roll, meaning to prepare the list of the citizens who are eligible to vote. And when the first list was published, it was found that almost 40 lakhs women's names were not included in the list, meaning the women were referred to as the woman of wife of so and so, or the daughter of so and so, or the sister of so and so. The exact particular name of the woman were not recorded in the list, and it was found that there were 17 crore eligible voters, and out of which only 15% were literate. So you all can see how much illiteracy was there in India. Then these eligible voters, the 17 crore eligible voters, had to elect about 3,200 MLAs and 489 members of the Lok Sabha. Being 15% literacy in the India, it was the election commission which had to come with special voting methods, and for this almost 3 lakh officers and polling staffs were trained. Then also India experimented the universal adult franchise, meaning earlier the voting age was 21 years, but by the 61st Amendment Act of 1988, it was the voting age of 21, the voting age from 21 was reduced to 18 years. So India had also experimented the universal adult franchise. Then it took all around 6 months for campaigning, polling and counting. And finally, the dates of the elections were declared from October 1951 to February 1952. So in the year 1952, the first general election was conducted, and it was the Congress party which had won this election of 1952. So now we will look the result of the election of 1952, as well as from 1952 to 1962, the 3 consecutive elections which were held, and it was the Congress party which had won the majority of the seats. If you all see the first general election, it was the Indian National Congress which had won 364 seats out of 489, and then the other parties had got a very less number of seats, that is Independent, Communist Party of India, Socialist Party, Kisan Mazdoor Praja Party, People's Democratic Front, Ganatantra Party, Hindu Mahasabha and others. So you all can see in the first graph how the Congress party got majority of the seats in the year 1952. Even when the election, the second general election was conducted in 1957, it was again the Indian National Congress which had got majority of the seats, and again in the third general election, it was again the Indian National Congress which had got 361 seats out of the 494 seats. So you all had seen the Congress was the dominant ruling party from 1952 till 1962 for the 3 consecutive elections. It was the Congress party which had won the election. So now there will be question in your mind, how the Congress party could dominate for the 3 consecutive elections. So here we are going to see the Congress dominance in the first general election, that is Congress was the first national political party. Congress was formed in the year 1885. The Congress party, as it was expected, it had been popularly known that it had inherited the legacy of national movement. Then it was the only party to have spread all over the country. It was not there in only 1 or 2 states, but the Congress party had its organization all over the country. And also it was a village based party. This party had one of the popular charismatic leader, that is, and he was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He even led the Congress campaign, and even he toured throughout the country during election. And this Congress party was the party of elites as well as of the masses. So you all can see how the Congress, how and what were the reasons due to which the Congress could dominate during the first 3 general elections. Now we are going to see the nature of Congress dominance, wherein Congress was seen as the inheritor of the national movement. Then many freedom strugglers who had actually participated in the national movements, they were actually now contesting in the elections as Congress candidates. And this party was very well organized party, wherein when the other political parties used to think about any strategies, the Congress party was the one which used to start its campaigning even before. Then many parties were formed only around independence or after that, means that it was the Congress party which was formed in the year 1885, but rest all parties, they were formed after the 1900. So it had its first of blocks advantage. Then the Congress had its roots in all the parts of the country and all the sections of the society. So you had seen the nature of Congress dominance. Now Congress as social and ideological coalition, how there was social and ideological coalition in the Congress party. At the beginning, the Congress party has been dominated by the English speaking, upper caste, upper middle class and the urban elites. But with every civil disobedience movement, the social base of the Congress became broad, it became wide, and it brought together the diverse groups whose interests were actually contradictory. For example, the peasants and the industrialists, the interest of the peasants will be different from the interest of the industrialists. Likewise, the urban dwellers and the villagers, the workers and the owners, the middle, lower and upper class and caste, all of them found space in the Congress party. And gradually, its leadership started expanding and gradually its leadership started expanding, and it was beyond the upper caste and class to the agricultural leaders as well. By the time of independence, the Congress was transformed into the rainbow, like meaning as rainbow is having different various colors, the Congress party had the people from various different groups, the people who are having different interests, all of them were there in the Congress party, and so it has been said that Congress was transformed like a rainbow. Then many of these merged their identity within the Congress party, but didn't merge their identity within the Congress party as it continued to exist within the Congress as groups and individuals holding different level. In this sense, Congress was an ideological coalition. How ideological coalition? Meaning it included, it accommodated all the people who are having different kinds of ideologies. For example, the revolutionary and the pacifist, the conservative and the radical, the extremist and the moderate and the right, left and the all the shades of the center. So you all had now seen how the Congress, how there was a social and ideological coalition in the Congress party. So now we are going to see the tolerance and management of factions. Now, as you all have seen, there was a social and ideological coalition in the Congress party, but the Congress party had to tolerate and manage the factions which were there in their party. What do you mean by faction? Faction is nothing but it is a group within the party with different ideology, and these factions were present in the Congress party. No doubt the social and ideological coalition, this gave strength to the Congress party. The coalition included all those who wanted to join it, and compromise and inclusiveness are the hallmark of the coalition, meaning whatever the opposition party had to say, already the Congress party used to include them in their policies and programs, so the other political parties had to face difficulty. There was a greater tolerance of internal differences, and ambitions of various groups and leaders are accommodated. Obviously, when there are people, when there is a faction, greater tolerance of internal differences and ambitions of various groups and leaders are accommodated, meaning as the people were accommodated of different ideologies, different interests, there were internal differences. Obviously, there were internal differences in the Congress party. Then groups within the party with diverse ideologies are called factions, as I have told you all. Then some of the factions based on ideological consideration, but very often these factions were rooted in personal ambitions and rivalries. The coalition nature of the Congress tolerated and in fact encouraged various factions. The coalition nature not only tolerated the faction, but the Congress party also encouraged this kind of factions, and instead of this internal factionalism becoming the weakness of the Congress party, it became the strength of the Congress party. In the first decade of the electoral competition, the Congress acted both as the ruling party as well as the opposition. So, when we are saying the first decade of the election, the first decade was from 1952 to 1962. Now, Congress acted here as the ruling party as well as the opposition party. Obviously, Congress was the ruling party. How it acted as the opposition party? The policies framed by the Congress party, they themselves criticized. Why? Because there were factions present in the Congress party, and this period of Indian politics has been described as the Congress system. Till now, you all had seen the dominance of the Congress party. It was the Congress party which was dominating from 1952 to 1962. But this doesn't mean that there were no opposition parties. Yes, there were opposition political parties, and now we are going to see the emergence of the opposition political parties in India during the first general election. India had a large number of opposition parties, but these opposition parties were formed after 1900. Means they were there before the election. After 1900 they were formed, but they were almost there before the first general election. All the opposition political parties succeeded in gaining only a token representation in the Lok Sabha as well as the state assemblies. These opposition parties played a crucial role in maintaining the democratic character of the system, and these parties even criticized the practices and policies of the ruling party, and they also kept the ruling party under check. There was a mutual respect between the leaders of the Congress party and those of the opposition party, and the first general election included opposition leaders in the cabinet like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So, there was an emergence of political parties in India during the first general election. they had formed after 1900. There were existence of these parties even before the election. So this was the emergence of political parties in India during the first general election. So now we are going to see which were the other opposition political parties in India. This is not there for your assessment. It is just I am briefing you all up with the name of the party and in which year it was formed. The Socialist Party was formed in the year 1934. Then the Communist Party of India, then the Bharatiya Jana Sangha in 1951. Muslim League in 1906 and Swatantra Party in 1959. So these were all the opposition parties, these were the main opposition political parties in India. So with this we have completed the today's lesson, that is era of one party dominance. We will just recap to what we have done today. That is, first of all, we had seen the challenges of building democracy, wherein what were the challenges our country faced in building democracy. The elections were conducted, what were the challenges which the election commission had to face to conduct the free and fair election in India. Then we saw how the Congress party dominated for the three consecutive elections from 1950 to 1962. Then we had seen the nature of Congress dominance, what was the nature of Congress dominance we had seen. Then the Congress as social and ideological coalition, how Congress accommodated the people from different interests, different groups, different ideologies into the Congress party. Then the tolerance and management of the factions, how the Congress party tolerated as well as managed the factions of the factions within the Congress party. Then we had seen the emergence of opposition parties. Yes, there were the opposition parties even before the election. They got a token of representation in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Even the opposition leaders were even in the first general election, the opposition leaders were included in the cabinet like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And then last we had seen which were the other main political parties. So with this we have completed the today's lesson, that is era of one party dominance. Thank you.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.